Here I've picked two items from the collection. We've got some coal, which is fantastically brittle and dirty. You only have to touch this and you're covered in a fine black powder. It's very fragile, it crumbles really easily, but it's incredible. You know, this is carbon in a really pure form, and when carbon is in a different form, you can have diamond, or you can have graphene, you can have extraordinary materials, you can have us. We're carbon-based life forms, and it's just really beautiful stuff. But I picked it because of what I mentioned earlier around materials always being in process, and often people think about materials being raw like this, but I'd like to propose that this is actually a made thing. It's just made by a geological process, but it's also gone through a process of mining and extraction and commodification that has made this a material that we can have and call coal and use. But yeah, the minute you touch it, you make a big mess. The next item, which I'm now not going to touch, maybe I will, this is white chocolate. So we have a selection of cubes in the library, and these are things we have made ourselves. These are things that most of them I've made or I've commissioned other people to make, but they essentially are a standardised form, 4 centimetres by 4 centimetres by 4 centimetres, array of different materials. And those materials essentially sit there in cubes not doing very much. Sometimes when you handle them, you might damage them, but actually that happens quite rarely. Although in the case of the white chocolate cube, I came in one day and found it had been nibbled by mice. But it was so exciting because what's happened is you've had a mouse do a kind of material critique. The mouse has, there were other chocolate cubes, there's like 90%, 80%, 72%, 64%, a 20% cocoa and a white chocolate cubes. There's lots of chocolate cubes, but the white chocolate cube has the highest fat content, the highest sugar content, and that mouse is getting the best calories it can for its nibble. So the mouse picks the best cube, and then it also does a kind of material form critique, because cubes, the weak point of a cube is a corner or the edge. If a material made into a cube is going to chip, it'll be the corner that's most likely to chip first. And if you're trying to eat a cube, I mean, it's madness to start eating on the face. You start eating on the weak points, you eat the corners and the edges. And actually that mouse has done exactly that. And what happens is you get a transformation, that cubes will transform into spheres if they are mechanically, encountered in a way that starts to round off the edges and square off the corners. So anyway, this mouse is eating the chocolate cube into a sphere, and it's great because it tells you about the material, it tells you about the shape of the material and the relationship between form and function and behaviour of stuff. So I feel like these two items represent something of our collection because they really challenge what your perception of a material is. So you have what you might perceive as a raw material, but also an everyday material. You have chocolate but coal, but they also challenge what materials get used for and what our encounters with them is like, and how a collection where we ask you to physically engage with things, what are the implications of that for the object? How is it going to change? How is it going to transform? How is it going to be damaged? And I think that story can be told through these items.